Nick Rudder from McKee's 37. In today's video, I'm going to showcase the McKee's 37 graphene ceramic coating and how to prep the surface before you apply it. Now graphene, it's like ceramic except it's much stronger. I tell people it's like SiO2 ceramic on steroids. Our graphene ceramic coating will provide up to 5 years of protection, incredible gloss, water repellency, dirt repellency, and it's going to actually make the clear coat a little bit harder. It is a 10H formula. Before you apply a graphene ceramic coating, it's imperative that you prep the surface by going through the special wash, decontamination, the polishing, etc. before you apply the coating. Even for a brand new car like this 2021 Jetta GLI. Doesn't matter if the car is brand spanking new or if it's 10 years old and it's never been driven in the rain. You have to follow this procedure, otherwise the coating will not properly adhere. So hang tight, I'm going to walk you through step by step, including the washing, the decontamination, and we have a money-saving kit available on our website that includes every procedure and process from start to finish. So check it out and hang tight, let's get started. Step number one is to wash the vehicle. For that, we're going to use McKee's 37 Coating Prep Auto Wash. Now, even for a brand new car, it's imperative that you use this wash because it helps strip everything off, any dealership applied waxes or any stubborn dirt that landed on the vehicle when it was transported via rail car or on the back of a tractor trailer or from overseas. So Coating Prep Auto Wash, it's a highly alkaline formula, but it's still safe for all exterior surfaces. I have my 5-gallon bucket here in my Carolina detailing cart, so I'm not bending over constantly. I've got a couple gallons of water, and I'm simply going to squirt some of this in there. Now, this is a very watery formula. That's by design. We did not want to put anything in there, like a thickening agent, that would prohibit the alkaline detergents from cleaning the paint. So I added my soap to my bucket, which already has water. I'm going to use my grit guard insert to stir it up, and then I'm going to blast it with the nozzle to create more foam. Okay, now before I actually wash the vehicle, I'm going to use our extreme iron remover. I'm going to spray it over all the exterior surfaces, and what this does is it breaks up and dissolves embedded iron deposits. Again, you're going to hear me stress in this video, doesn't matter if the car is brand new or if it's used. If it's just off the dealer lot or if it's never been driven in the rain, you have to use the iron remover. This dissolves the below surface contaminants so the coating will adhere much better. Now this Jetta was made in Mexico, so they throw it on a rail car, it's transported to the port, then it gets put on a truck and delivered to the dealership. So there's a lot of areas where iron deposits are going to land on the paint, and these iron deposits are corrosive. So I'm going to spray this guy all over the exterior surfaces before I even touch it with a wash mitt and before I even rinse it with water. And the reason why I'm applying it to dry paint is because if the paint is wet first, it's going to dilute the product, making it less effective. So you're going to see me spray it all over the paint, and what it actually does is it changes colors from clear to red as it dissolves the iron particles. Now, it's important with this product, don't let it dry on the surface. Today it's unusually cold in Florida, hence the sweatpants, and the sun's not all the way up yet, so I don't really have to worry about that. But if you're working in direct sun on a hot day, just be mindful not to let it dry on the surface. So I'm going to spray this all over the vehicle, and then I'm going to grab my wash mitt and I'm going to wash the vehicle like I normally would. Then we're going to proceed to using the universal clay mitt to remove the bonded contaminants. Now it's kind of hard to see on this pure gray paint, but there is some bleeding going on. It's very faint. And if your car does not bleed, don't panic. That's actually a good sign because it means your paint is not heavily contaminated. So you can see there as it changes color from clear to red, dissolving the iron particles. And the next step is to wash. So at this point, I've sprayed extreme iron remover all over the outside of the Jetta. I'm going to take a wash mitt. I have my Carolina detailing cart, so I'm not bending over constantly, and I'm simply going to wash the vehicle. Now, even though I'm going to polish this, you still want to practice proper wash techniques. Dunk your mitt frequently and have a good layer of lubrication on the surface, because we don't want to inflict any further damage, because even though this Jetta is brand new, there are some paint defects, as you'll see here, some real light swirl marks. When we bought it, it had about 70 miles on the odometer, and the dealership, of course, washed it a couple times, and they inflicted their own damage. So I'm going to wash the entire vehicle, then I'm going to show you how to use the universal clay mitt. At this point, I've completely washed the Jetta to remove loose dirt and grime. Now it's time to do the mechanical decontamination using our universal clay mitt. This is available in both a medium and a fine. With this car being so new, I chose to use the fine grade mitt. And what this does is it replaces a clay bar. A clay bar is tacky and it contains an abrasive. When rubbed across the surface, it shaves off the bonded contaminants, bug splatter, tree sap, industrial fallout, any other airborne pollutants that are not removed during the wash process, and it sticks to the bar. The way a clay mitt works is there's a rubberized polymer coating on the surface of this mitt, and with ample lubrication, meaning your wash soap here, you gently rub it across the paint, and it effectively shaves off the contaminants, and then they're rinsed off when you rinse the vehicle off. So the trick with using one of these guys is, number one, lots of lubrication. Dunk it in your wash bucket at least once for every panel, if not more. And when you're using it, it's important that you just the weight of your hand on the panel, you're not bearing down, you're not trying to scrub off caked on lasagna from your glass top stove. You're just being very gentle, going back and forth. Let the polymerized rubber coating do the work for you. So the iron remover removed below surface contaminants. This is going to remove above surface bonded contaminants. So I'm going to go panel by panel, dunking it in my wash bucket. Now, if this Jetta were really, really dirty, I would switch out this water for new soap and water because of dirt and contamination in the bucket, but this car was really not that dirty at all, so I feel comfortable reusing this. And one of the many advantages of using a clay mitt like this is that if you accidentally drop it, you can simply rinse it off. Now, with a clay bar, if you drop it, you've been told to discard it, and I agree with that. But a clay mitt, you can simply rinse it off and keep on going. Plus, it lasts a lot longer than a clay bar as well. You might notice that there's dried soap on the surface, and that's true. All of the McKee's 37 soaps, if you let them dry, it's perfectly okay. Now, the coating prep auto wash, I would not allow that to dry on the paint if it were an extremely hot day, but with the temperatures as they are today, it's perfectly safe. The next step is to rinse everything off. I'm going to dry it afterwards with a Glacier 1100 drying towel. I'm going to use a mini car dryer pro to blast out water out of cracks and crevices, so when I'm polishing, I don't have water interfering with my polishing process. I'm going to put the vehicle up on the quick jack, and then I'm going to polish it. I wanted to point out, if you look at this hood, it looks like it's dry on camera, but it's actually wet. There is zero protection on the paint at this point, despite what the dealership tried charging me, a $900 markup for a 1-year ceramic coating. Clearly, the iron remover, the coating prep auto wash, and the clay mitt has completely destroyed any protection on this paint, which is exactly what you want before you proceed to the polishing step. To dry the Jetta, I'm going to use a combination of Glacier 1100 drying towels. These towels have a split weave microfiber technology, makes them extremely absorbent. We offer them in a host of different sizes, with this guy being the largest, the 30 by 50. And then we also have a 20 by 30, as well as a 16 by 16. So these towels are extremely soft and extremely absorbent, and especially after I graphene coat the vehicle, it'll be super easy to dry. So at this point, the Jetta has been washed. It's been mechanically decontaminated using the universal clay mitt, chemically decontaminated using a combination of our coating prep auto wash and our extreme iron remover. I showcased the water was laying flat. There's no beading. There is no protection on the surface. Now it's time to polish. And for that, I'm going to use our complete finishing polish. Even though this is a brand new car, it still has some real light imperfections. There's some real shallow swirl marks. And the reason that happens is because, again, even though it's a new car, the dealership washes it, the guys wipe it down with low quality chamois, and naturally they're going to instill some defects. So I'm fairly confident that just our complete finishing polish alone with a white polishing pad will be more than enough to take care of the real light swirl marks. There might be some areas where I'll have to do a two-step with our complete swirl remover followed by the complete finishing polish, but just from my experience, I'm pretty confident again that the complete finishing polish will be more than enough. Now, here's the deal. When you go online, you're going to read all these different comments and threads about paint hardness and paint softness. Now, don't take all that to heart. It's good information to have, but nothing beats having the vehicle in front of you where you can perform a test spot. You know, some people might say Volkswagen paint is notoriously hard. Well, Volkswagens are made all over the country. They're made in several continents. This particular Jetta comes from Mexico, and in my experience, solid colors like this pure gray, they tend to be softer than colors with a metallic in them. Now, that's not black and white for all makes and models. That might be a controversial statement, but just from my personal experience. So when you hear people say like, oh, all Subaru paint is really soft, well, a white Subaru metallic is not nearly as soft as a solid red Subaru color. So again, don't take that to heart. You'll hear me stress over and over again in all my videos, have a combination of different polishes and pads. It's not always black and white. It's not going to be a white pad with the finishing polish for this paint or a black pad for this paint. Have a selection of pads. You can never have too many pads. So anyway, speaking of pads, the tools that I'm going to use for this detail are going to be a combination of the Flex XFE. That's the long stroke machine. It has a 15 millimeter orbit. I'm going to use the 5-inch backing plate, which is standard, along with the optional 6-inch plate, so I can vary the pad size. And I've always been a huge advocate of the Flex XCE, which is the forced rotation machine. That was birthed by the 3401, the original forced rotation machine. But I'll tell you, the XFE, it's really impressed me a lot lately. It has a 15 millimeter stroke. It's extremely smooth. It's very powerful, and it just feels great in your hands. So that guy is available in corded and cordless. So I'm going to use that tool for the larger areas. And then for the smaller areas, I'm going to use the Flex PXE80. This is a mini polisher. You've seen all my videos about it, I'm sure. If not, check out the links below. You can adjust it from a 3-inch all the way down to a 1-inch. And not only the pad size, but the type of tool it is as well. A rotary, a 3 millimeter orbit, or my favorite, a 12 millimeter orbit. So the theme of this detail is going to be the large stroke orbits. So again, complete finishing polish with my Flex polishers. That will cover the polishing step. You can check out the footage that I'm inserting here and there that'll showcase just how well these products and this process works to prep the Volkswagen paint for application of our graphene ceramic coating. Use some type of LED light. This is a Husky from Home Depot. It's rechargeable. Use it to clearly identify the paint defects so you can perform a test spot. You want to perform a test spot, preferably on a section of paint that's easy to polish and easy to see the defects, the before and after. So the trunk lid, the roof, or the hood is my favorite. They work best. This way you can dial in your pad and your polish combination to see exactly what works and what doesn't, so you can repeat the process panel by panel or section by section over the entire vehicle. So I'm going to put down a piece of tape here, and you'll see that the defects, just like I initially observed, they're really light on this Jetta, so I'm fairly confident that our complete finishing polish with the white foam pad on the Flex XFE, it'll be more than enough to take care of them. So I applied a piece of painter's tape here in the section where I'm going to be performing my test spot. And the reason for the tape, it's a visual indicator, along with bragging rights for social media, to see how well your pad and polish combination work. So I've got McKee's 37 complete finishing polish, the Flex XFE, and a white foam polishing pad. we're going to see how well this combination works. And complete finishing polish, it's very fine. It feels like a skin lotion between your fingers, just like our swirl remover. There's no harsh, jagged abrasives here. It has a long buffing cycle, and it's really easy to wipe off. So just a few drops of product. Cord over shoulder so I'm not dragging it across the paint. And let's see what happens. So my initial observation is that this paint is really nice to work with. I don't see any immediate haze, which is good. It means the paint is not too soft. I'm going to slowly take off my tape, pulling at an angle. You don't pull straight back. I'm going to grab my light and inspect the result. Big difference in the color and clarity. Again, even for a brand new car, you'd be surprised at just how much of a difference you can make. And it's really important that when you are polishing like this, start with the horizontal panels first. If I polish the fender first, and then later on I'm polishing the hood, what's happening is I'm leaning on the paint I just spent all this time polishing. So do your hood, the roof, and the trunk, and then proceed to the panels on the side. Now, I have a quick jack. You'll see I'm going to lift the vehicle up after I do the hood, the roof, and the trunk. I'll lift it up on the quick jack. It'll make it a lot easier on my back to polish the side of the vehicle. Okay, just one thing I want to note before I get started here and polish the entire Volkswagen is I'm often asked, Nick, will the polish stain plastic or rubber trim? And the answer, well, the polish will not. If I take a dab of polish, put it on my finger and rub it on here, it's not going to stain it. However, when you have a buffing pad rotating and oscillating at several thousand orbits per minute, that will cause the plastic to be stained, because what happens is you have a pad with mechanical cutting ability, again, rotating and oscillating at several thousand OPM, and that's scuffing the plastic trim. It's going to impact the polish into the material, so you're going to scuff it, and you're going to force polish into that material. So it's a good idea to spend 15-20 minutes and $5 and get some masking tape. No one likes taping off trim. It takes a long time. But take the masking tape and tape off the trim, because what will take you a lot more time than taping off the trim is using a toothbrush and our wax remover for plastic and digging out all the wax and polish stains from the trim. So there's a tip for dealing with a plastic trim when you polish paint. So now I've got the Jetta lifted up on the quick jack, and I believe this lifts the vehicle about 22 inches or so. We're actually going to start selling these pretty soon. I bought this guy last year, and it is hands down one of the best investments for a tool that I've ever made. Not only does it come in handy for detailing, obviously, because you're not struggling to reach the lower panels, and for a lot of vehicles you can actually stand up, like SUVs and trucks, and even this Jetta, I'll stand up to do the top of the door here. So it really saves your back, and besides detailing, like I was saying, is oil changes, tire rotation. It's much, much safer than using a jack with jack stands, which I did for most of my life working on cars, and then I happened to discover these guys, and phenomenal product and phenomenal service. So anyway, so at this point I've done the hood, the roof, and the trunk. Again, do the horizontal panels first so you're not leaning over the vertical panels to polish those. So one of the many advantages of using the Flex XFE with its 15 millimeter large stroke is that it covers a lot more area than something like a Porter Cable 7424XP or a comparable machine. So for example, this door right here, the Jetta, it's a pretty good sized car. Nowadays it's considered mid-size, but 20 years ago the dimensions of this would be considered full size. So these doors are pretty good size, and if I were using a Porter Cable, I would divide this door into 4 sections. Well, with the Flex, because it has more power and it has the longer stroke, I can actually split this door in half, and I can put my dividing line right here, and I'll polish this part, and then I'll polish this top part here. So smooth, powerful, made in Germany, and it saves you a ton of time. Now I want you to pay attention to how I'm tackling this area down here, because this door, it has a complex design where it caves in here, and a disadvantage to this tool is that it's a free spinning design like a Porter cable. Compared to the Flex XCE or the 3401, both of which are gear driven, this machine, the pad will stop spinning if the pad is not flat or if there's simply too much pressure on it. With the latter, it's not really an issue. You can put tons of pressure on this guy and it'll still spin. But for areas like this, instead of just going over it where the pad will stall, adjust the angle of the machine so you can polish these areas, or better yet, use something like the Flex PXE80. Now in terms of the amount of pressure I'm applying, I would say a solid 15 pounds of pressure. Even though it's a finishing polish, I still want to get in there and remove the defects. So that's the Flex XFE, which it is variable speed. I've been polishing on speed 5. It has a trigger lock, so you can lock the trigger in place. It's extremely smooth. It weighs next to nothing. You guys saw when I was doing the roof, I was using one hand, and I'm not a massively strong person. So you don't have to be, you know, a bodybuilder to manhandle this tool. And then when you're wiping off your polish, any polish is going to come off much easier when you take short, firm strokes. Now, don't wipe like a wild man, and make sure your towel is folded 4 ways, folded nice and flat. And take your time and wipe off the polish. Down here, I'll wipe side to side and left and right because of the shape of the panel. But on the large flat areas, I wipe in a circular motion because in my experience, the polish comes off much easier. And flip your towel often, and after a while your polish is going to get built up on the towel, so you want to flip to a whole new towel as a whole. And one more thing that I want to mention is how many pads to use when you're detailing a vehicle like this. So with this Flex XFE, I'm using the optional 6-inch backing plate with the 6 3/4-inch red line foam pads. They're a thin profile. They work phenomenal on this tool. And normally, after cleaning a section, or excuse me, after polishing a section or two, what you do is you take a pad brush and you brush the face of the pad to remove the spent residue, because when you're polishing this, you're removing little tiny bits of clear coat, and you have your polish residue and your abrasives and embedded dirt, and you want to get all that off the face of the pad. So use a pad cleaning brush to brush the face of the pad in between sections, and also rotate your pads frequently. And what I mean by that is once I finish this door, I'll take that pad off and I'll put a new pad on. And the reason why is that gives that pad, the old pad, time to cool down, because heat is the enemy of paint. It's the enemy of your backing material on your buffing pad. And by rotating your pads, you allow the pads time to cool down. So let's say I would use pad A for this door. For the rear door, pad B. When I go back to the quarter panel, I'll switch back to pad A. And I'll repeat that process, and it also extends pad life in general. Since I'm not doing any heavy correction, I'll likely use 3 polishing pads for the 6 3/4-inch size on this Jetta. For the smaller machine, the PXE80, likely I'll use 2 3 3/4-inch pads. And at the end of the day, I can clean them with our polishing pad cleaner. And while they're not going to have the same mechanical cutting ability as they did when they were new, they will still serve a purpose for polishing in the future. So it's not like I'm going to throw the pads out. They'll still be fine. But I'm going to keep on going. And then you might have noticed earlier on that I did not mention the wheels or tires. And you're right. Normally you wash the wheels and tires before you wash the paint. Well, I'm actually going to do a wheels off detail with this Jetta, where I'm going to clean the wheels off the vehicle and ceramic coat them as well, or actually graphene coat them. So I'm going to keep on moving. So at this point, the entire jet has been polished, and the last step before you apply the graphene ceramic coating is to wipe the vehicle down with our coating prep spray. All polishes, they have lubricating oils that help lubricate the surface as you polish, and they also help to suspend the abrasives. These lubricating oils, they will actually prevent the graphene ceramic coating from properly adhering all the way to the surface. So by using the coating prep spray, this encapsulates those polishing oils. It suspends them in a lubricating barrier so you can wipe them off without scratching or marring the surface. A lot of times you'll see, and you'll also hear detailers online say, well, just use alcohol. Alcohol works. It really does. However, alcohol is a very poor lubricant. My wife and I just spent the last 3 hours polishing this Jetta, and the last thing that we want to do at this point is instill any scratches from lack of lubrication. So coating prep spray, it dissolves the polishing oils like alcohol does, except it provides a lubricating barrier, and it's also much easier to use because alcohol, the issue with it is that it evaporates really fast. This stays on the surface to wet the surface, but it doesn't stay too long to where it leaves a film. It works extremely well, and when you perform this process, you want to, again, continue the theme of inspecting your towels, making sure they're really good towels, and you want to use an ample amount of product. You want enough on the surface to fully encapsulate the oil. So take your bottle, and I like to work one panel at a time, and I really saturate the surface almost as if I were performing a waterless wash, and then take my towel and then wipe it off. And another great feature or application, mind you, for this product is for just applying a regular wax or sealant too. It's going to make the wax or sealant adhere better, and as an added bonus, if there's any polish residue that you forgot to wipe off, maybe because, I don't know, after a couple hours you get tired, by spraying this on, it helps remove any excess polish from cracks or crevices or anywhere that you just might have missed when you're wiping off the polish. So really easy to wipe off. You saw it right there. The balance with this product is that it stays wet long enough on the surface to encapsulate the polishing oils, but it also flashes when you wipe with a towel. So we spent a lot of time on this formula to ensure that it did a good job while providing a friendly user experience. And naturally, being a McKee's 37 product, it smells great too. So I'm going to wipe the rest of the vehicle down. We're going to apply the graphene ceramic coating, and I'm going to repeat this identical process to the wheels as well. So once everything is completely polished and you wiped it down with the coating prep spray, it's time to apply graphene ceramic coating. Now, included with your coating is our coating applicator pad. It's aptly named, and it includes a crimson red foam to actually apply the coating, and then the gray side is a more aggressive coarse foam to hold onto with your fingers so it doesn't slip out. And in between is a layer that prevents the coating from absorbing from the red to the gray. So there's a little bit of science behind these applicator pads. And with the graphene ceramic coating, you have a dropper, and you'll simply apply some product to the dropper. And you want to divide a hood this size, because this is a pretty good size hood on this Jetta, into 2 sections. So I'm going to evenly split it in half. And a coating works best if you have a wife or a girlfriend or boyfriend or husband, whatever, to work with a buddy system. And what I mean is, at this point, I've spent most of the day washing and polishing and prepping this Jetta. The last and final step, and arguably the easiest step, is to apply the coating. But if you're like me, you get tired, your eyes start to get heavy, dinner's coming soon, so having a buddy wipe the coating off and then you double check your buddy, that ensures that you don't have any high spots, because this coating is the real deal. When this hardens, if there's any excess, you'll have to use a polish to wipe it off. So, but again, don't let that intimidate you. It's very easy to apply. So I have it on the applicator pad, and what I'll do is I'll outline the perimeter first. And then I'll simply go side to side. And I'm actually going to apply a little bit more because this hood is pretty darn big. And you'll know when you need to apply more because the applicator pad is grippy. So when it becomes grippy, that's when you need to apply more. And right off the bat, it's starting to be, there we go, glides beautifully. So that's how you know. And there's going to be a little bit of grippiness, that's normal, but if it starts gripping to the point where you have to put extra pressure on to hold it, then that's when you know that, hey, you need to apply more coating, which when you do a new panel, you apply more coating anyway. And you simply go up and down, side to side. And we'll capture some up-close footage of this, but when the coating is ready to be removed, which is usually after one panel, which again, this hood is considered 2 panels, there's a rainbow effect. And what that is that's the carrier agent that's flashing, and you wipe that off, and what's left behind is the actual graphene coating. And the way the graphene coating works is it fills in all the pits, pores, and valleys on the paint, and it creates a perfectly smooth, water-fearing surface that is incredibly glossy, because if you recall, gloss comes from smoothness. So at this point, I can wipe it off. I'll just do a quick check, make sure I got the perimeter. And when you're applying a coating, whether it's mine or someone else's, you want to have a lot of towels handy. This is only about half the towels I'm going to use just for wiping off the coating. So take your towel, inspect it. All of the towels found at McKee's37.com, they're not going to lint. Don't use cheap towels to wipe off your coating, please. So the trick to wiping off a coating is to have the towel folded 4 ways and to take short, firm strokes, and it comes right off. I'm telling you, this is the easiest part of the entire detail, but because it's the last part, if you're like me, again, you tend to get hungry and you're tired, and frankly, you just kind of want to get finished. So that's where the buddy system comes in, which, well, there'll be some footage here of my wife helping me. This is her car after all, so she's gonna have some skin in the game, but coating comes off super easy. You want to work in a well-lit area. In my garage, I have 3 overhead lights, but to be honest with you, you can just use the flashlight on your phone. Just want to check for high spots, and boom, that's it, man. Easy peasy. I'll flip the towel again, and I'll just go over it real quickly, just to ensure that there's no excess product. And when I wipe it off, I also wipe off the surrounding panel a little bit too. So that's how you apply the McKee's 37 graphene ceramic coating. You apply it to your paint, your wheels, your glass, your headlights, your taillights. It's easy to apply. You just have to prep the surface, but the results are well worth it. At this point, when the jet is completely finished, it'll have to sit here in the garage for 24 hours while the coating cures. Coatings do not react well to water while they're curing. You risk inducing water spots, moisture into the paint that can be very difficult to remove. So you want to be disciplined. You want to keep that vehicle away from moisture and water for at least 24 hours. So right now it's 7 o'clock. So tomorrow evening when we get home from work, after we have dinner, we'll pull the car out, we'll ooh and ah, we'll admire it, and then we'll move on with life. But now the paint is protected, maintaining it will be super easy. Besides the incredible gloss of the graphene ceramic coating, it's going to be so easy to wash because nothing is going to want to stick to the paint, and this pure gray Volkswagen Jetta GLI is going to look absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait for you guys to see the after footage. So thanks for tuning in. I'm Nick Rudder from McKee's 37. If you like videos like this, please click the like button, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. It's a lot of work detailing this car, which is fine by me, but it's also a lot of work on a Sunday to film all of this for you guys. So shop at McKee's37.com for anything car care related. For boats, head over to nauticalone.com. And thank you so much. Take care, and God bless.